so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
It gives me a great deal of pleasure to once again introduce Bob Walk, who's one of our most popular speakers. He comes here almost every year, and he's a great speaker. He's currently an announcer for the Pirates. He was born in Van Nuys, California. He started with the Phillies for 1 year. Then he went to the Braves for 3 years. Then he came with the Pirates for 10 years. He completed three games in division titles with the Pirates. Jim Leyland took him from the bullpen and moved him to as a starter. And Bob helped win 3 division titles for the Pirates. He's the father of 3 children. He's also a grandfather. Jimmy, Johnny, and Ronnie. He hit 1 home run in his career. In 1992, he tossed a complete game in the World Series. Let's give a nice strong hand to Bob Walk.
It used to be I came here every year. Now you say I come almost every year. Have I missed one somewhere? I'm horrible with names, so I'm cheating. I'm putting the roster right here, so when you ask me somebody, I can look them up real quick. Thanks for having me again. This is always, Garda calls me. Garda's my boss. He calls me and says, okay, this is the date you can come down. You have to go down. And throughout the winter, he sends me these jobs that I have to do. Go out, do this, do that, do this. This one, and I'm saying this very honestly, I'm not just throwing this out there. This is the one that I really look forward to. I love coming down here, talk to you guys. It's basically just down the street from where I live. This is a lot of fun because I don't have to come out. And I'm sure everybody that's heard me before, I don't have to come out with a prepared speech and talk for 30 minutes about, what we're going to do or what I used to do or any of that. This is more of a conversation that I have with you guys as a whole. I love that format, so we can just kind of talk about baseball and we can really be very frank about some subjects. I'm really open with you guys as far as I can be. And of course, this year I'm going to do the same thing. Last year, I don't know if we can go back and look at the tape. I don't know what it's going to say or not, but I think that I probably predicted we'd win 70-some games last year, somewhere in that neighborhood. We ended up actually doing a little bit better than I thought we would. The pitching really was pretty darn good. We had some young guys really come through. Trevor Williams was unbelievable. And that's probably going to be the story again this year. If we play well and can push up into the upper 80s in wins, or maybe even reach 90, who knows? But upper 80s, I think, is is a reasonable expectation if you're going to be on the positive side of things. The pitching is really going to do most of the work. The hitting is a huge question mark about how many runs we were able to score. As anyone that follows the Pirates knows, they were very disappointed in the offense last year. They've changed hitting coaches. They got rid of the hitting coach and the assistant hitting coach. The only changes that they really made. Right there, that shows you that they believe that there is a huge room for improvement with the guys we have. And as you go around the field, which we will here in a little bit, we'll talk about the guys we have and what can be expected out of them. The two areas that could just be huge for us, I'll throw out there right now. One is if Jung Ho Kang actually still has something in the tank after missing a couple of years because he can't get a visa to come over here because he can't stay off the bottle, then that's going to be big for us. Everything I have heard, all the people I've talked to say that Jung Ho Kang is a changed man, that he has really taken this experience to change his life around. He's in good shape physically, and there's no real hard reason why he can't continue to be the player he was a couple years ago. He's still relatively young. He's not beyond age-wise to where he should start to deteriorate. So if he can get that everyday third base job, you got the player that we had before he had his troubles was a better than average defensive third baseman, really a plus guy. And we know that power-wise, as an everyday player, he's going to hit 25 to 30 home runs as an everyday player. So that's a big question mark that could be a difference between 5 or 6 wins just from that one position if he is the player that he was. And, I don't know, how we can answer that early in the season. Spring training will be a little bit of a window to where we can see what type of guy he is, but it'll probably be at least the middle of May, toward the end of May, before we really think, hey, he's back, we got him, he's really good. Or, no, he's not back, and we need Colin Moran to step up and, be the home run type bat that they kind of thought he was going to be last year. Other side of the diamond, Bell really took a big step back last season. Nobody really knows why. As always, he changed his swing around 100 different times. He's a type of a guy that all through his life he's kind of been an experimenter, swinging the bat. He got caught, I think, experimenting a lot of different things last season, and it took him a long time to figure out how to get his stroke back. Finished the season real good. Last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, he looked like a power hitter again. Take it for what it's worth. A lot of talk the last couple of weeks from people that I've talked to down at the ballpark. I don't go down to the ballpark, by the way, until after New Year's. So then I've been down there a couple of times talking to some people, and a lot of good things I'm hearing about him. Again, it'll be a lot like Jung Ho on the other side. We'll see what happens in spring training, but really, middle of May is where we will know, is Bell back to being a guy that can hit 25 home runs, or is he going to go into September in single digits in home runs like he did last year, which would be a disaster for us. But those are, I think, the two biggest things on offense. And also in the middle of May, end of May, hopefully Polanco will be healthy and coming back, as we need him to play at least 4 months for us. And he had the shoulder surgery last year where he tore his shoulder sliding into second base. I can't remember now what, it's like a rotator cuff situation in there. Don't know exactly which muscle or whatever got messed up, but they had the surgery and he's not expected. Well, he could come back anywhere. This is what they say: anywhere from the end of April to the beginning of June. There's a big window there. So if he comes back, he probably won't ever be able to throw like he did. That's the bad thing. But the good thing is, offensively, he should be able to still swing the bat. And that's really what we need from him, is some offense. As I said before, the pitching staff actually looks like it's going to be pretty good. You got 4 real good starters. The back end of your bullpen, 4 guys we got back there, really strong. We can pitch with anybody in our division either, easily. That won't be a problem. It'll be the scoring of the runs that could be a little bit of a problem. Not to say, and I don't want to I knock on wood when I talk about the pitchers, because they're young. There's guys that can take a step backwards. Trevor Williams, who I mentioned earlier, who was fantastic last year. What if he takes a step back and he's not the same as he was last year? What if Tyone gets hurt? I mean, there's some things that could mess us up. But as far as predicting going into spring training, starting the year, you got to look at the pitching staff as our strength. And if you're going to have a strength, that's where you want it. You want it to be in the pitching. So that's kind of an overview of where I see the Pirates at right now. I know, when you read things, it's all about free agents and stuff, and I get that. I would have liked to seen them fill that number 5 spot in the rotation with a quality pitcher. And not to saying that the guys that are going in there are not quality, but I'm talking about a proven quality pitcher that we don't have for that number 5 spot. So I don't know how that's going to shake out. There's a lot of different scenarios we can come up with, but I think that's a little bit of a question mark. Other than that, free agency, I don't know what they could have done other than maybe sign Machado, which I don't think they're going to do, but that would be the only, go after one of the biggest name in free agent, Harper and Machado, and Machado's a shortstop, and we really don't have a shortstop. So that would have been nice, but we didn't have a spare $300 million laying around, so I guess they decided not to do that. But those guys are still out there. I don't know what they're going to sign with. People are talking about now how they might sign a 1-year contract for ridiculous money, and they just play it that way because they can't get the long term. So, but those 2 guys, they're kind of taking it right down to the final moment. So we'll see how that ends up going. Once they do sign, there'll be a flurry of like other little signings here or there. All take place probably even after spring training starts. But I don't know, like I said, other than a 5th starter or a big name shortstop, I don't know what else we could really change right now with the team we got going in. So I'm going to open things up, as I always do, to the questions. I know you guys always have some great ones for me. So
We'll let Ray kick it off.
all right, sorry.
Bob, you mentioned Bell and Polanco, and you didn't mention Marte. I think those 3 guys all were disappointments last year, and I expected at least one of them to be a real star.
Well,
it hasn't turned out that way.
I think Polanco, before he got hurt, he played really poorly the first couple months of the season. I think he hit 5 home runs in the first week or something ridiculous something, and then it's like he took the next 2 months off. There even got to be talk like, can they send him down or what are they going to do? Then remember where he backed off the plate a little bit. That I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but he likes to be up on top of the plate, and they backed him off just maybe 3 inches, and when that happened, if it was that or whatever, he took off hitting, and was knocking. He was our best hitter, best player for a month and a half leading up until he slid into second base and tore his shoulder up. So that, I think, was a good sign for the future for Polanco. Bell, I think, was really the the disappointment for me because that went all year and there was nothing physical wrong with him and nothing. Marte, he ended up doing a lot of good things, hit 20 home runs, but he's capable of so much more. On any given night, he could be the best player on the field. I don't care who we're playing, what team we're playing. But does he want to be that guy every night? Does he want to be the best player every night? I mean, you can challenge him. You can ask him, are you as good as this guy? Are you as good as that guy? Whatever player you need, go say, yeah, I'm as good as them. Look, well, why are they winning MVPs and in the voting for MVP? How come you're not there? Because you are physically and at times just as good as anybody in the league. I don't think he really has an answer for that. But he's running out of time to prove himself of being that player. And I think it's been pointed out to him a couple of times that the clock is ticking. If you want to ever have that one big contract, you better step it up and do something. So we'll see what happens this year. He was okay last year. What do you get? 270, 20 home runs. Not bad. But when you look at what he's capable of doing, you look at the physical assets. He's always one of the very fastest guys in the league. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's got great power. I mean, he can hit the ball as far as anybody, even though he's not really all that big. His body, he looks like he's been chiseled out of marble when you see him without a shirt. I mean, he is just put together like you can't believe. Why he doesn't play consistent from night to night, and I don't mean, he's going to strike out and stuff like that. That's the kind of swing he has. But there are times where you can see him ground out to short and run a 6-second down to first base. He's just not into it. He just doesn't want to, he'll jog after a ball out in the outfield because he thinks he can get to it, and then all of a sudden, something happens and he doesn't catch it, and you're like, if he would have just ran, he could have got there and caught it in his back pocket because he's that good. He gets the balls easily that other people have to struggle to get to if he's really into the game all the time. So I think that's the challenge with Marte, and I don't know if there's any easy answer to it. He himself, somewhere inside, is the answer. Somebody is going to have to pull that out of him to get him to really be the player that he has the physical capabilities to be, because he is as gifted as anybody else. Yes.
2 questions. Question number 1, our left fielder, and I can't think of his name right now.
Dickerson. Let me look it up. Dickerson, Corey Dickerson.
Can we get your comments on him, and can you name off the starting rotation?
Sure. Corey Dickerson is not a power type guy, okay? He's going to probably hit 10 or 15 home runs over the course of the season. He's more of a get on base and score runs type guy. Good base runner, decent speed, not a burner, decent. And when he came over here, people were telling us, the sign play a lot in the American League, and that, he's a designated hitter. He's a butcher in the outfield, this and that. So now we're like watching him play the outfield, and it was like, he's okay. And then you see him do a few things, say, well, he's not bad at all. Then you see, then by June, we're going, this guy's our best outfielder. Because now he is not gifted at all. He's got decent speed. I'm 62 years old. I probably have a better arm still than he does. He really can't throw much at all. But he doesn't take a second off, not one pitch off, not one play, nothing. He goes all out all the time, 100%. And he has learned this. It reminds me of the way Bonds used to play left field. That, okay, I don't have much of an arm. What can I do to make up for it? Charges the heck out of the ball like he's playing third base. You'll see him scoop it up and make that off-balance throw into second base, kind of like a guy coming in fielding a bunt, making a one-legged throw. He'll do that going to the left field line, and the guy that hit the ball coming around first, he sees the ball coming in, and he's just like, I got to stop. And going back. It's all about quick release. The throw might be 20 feet wide at second base, but when you're coming around first, you can't see that. You just know, wow, the ball's already coming in, Might be coming in an arc or whatever, but it is coming in. So he's discovered that there are ways to make up for not having a very good arm. Tony Gwynn won many Gold Gloves out there playing right field. Right field is that's where you put your guy with the cannon. He didn't throw much better than Dickerson did, but he found a way to get things done out there. And when you don't take plays off, and when you bust in on every ground ball, make sure you're in the right position before each pitch. A lot of things that you can do to help yourself out, and that's what Dickerson does. He helps himself out. He's another guy that likes to experiment with the bat. There's days where he wants to hit 330 and win a batting title. And then next month somebody points out to him, you haven't hit a home run in 3 weeks. It's been 2.5 weeks since you got an RBI. Now he's going back to the end of the bat, and now he's trying to jerk everything into the river. So what kind of hitter he is overall, I don't know. It depends on what he's trying to do. If you see him choking up and trying to slap the ball the other way, he wants to be a batting average guy and get on base. And then there'll be talk about, and it came up last year because nobody's hitting home runs. So it's like, we got to have somebody hit home runs. So then he started to be a home run hitter. And he does have some power, but he can't get on the end of the bat and just commit to that all the time, because that's going to take away from the other good stuff he does. He doesn't walk. He does not take pitches. So if he gets on base, it's got to be choke up, get base hits. But he's out there in left field, and that's one spot I don't think we have to worry about, as long as we're not looking for a lot of power production from left field. Just get your base hits and score some runs. I think that's the best way he could help the team. And I think that's what he's going to do. Did you have another question? Oh, are you going to have Taillon, who's our ace, really? I mean, I think he's got an opportunity to, I don't know, this year, some year, especially now that they don't look so much at wins, your record. They look more at other things, other stats, the New Age war and all that kind of stats, whatever all that stuff means. But they look at those things for like Cy Young Award voting. And so I think that he is at least going to be in the conversation at the beginning of the season for the next probably 5 years or so of his career, that he could be a guy. In fact, I just saw an article the other day, like they had 10 pitchers in the National League that could maybe win the Cy Young, and his name was in there. So he's got some respect from around the league about what kind of pitcher he could be. But he definitely is going to be, our ace. Trevor Williams, he's the soft tosser of the group, but he still can throw the ball, 89, 90 miles an hour. But he just does it with knowledge of how to pitch and guts. He pitches inside better than I think anybody we have. It's crazy how he can jam people, how he can go away, change his speeds, puts a little movement on the ball, throws a four-seam straight pitch on the outside corner. He is a true pitcher for sure. There's no doubt that he's going to be really good this year. I mentioned him a while ago as maybe somebody takes a step back. It'll be a big surprise to him if he does. I don't want anyone to think just because I put his name out there that I expect it. I expect him to continue to pitch extremely well, because he really definitely knows what he's doing. Number 3 guy would be the guy that we got last year from Tampa Bay, whose name is, let me look here. It is, Archer, yes, I couldn't think of it. I'm sitting there, come on, who is it? That would be, I guess, our number 3 guy, who at the time of the trade, people thought, well, he'll be the ace. It didn't turn out that way. He didn't quite have the stuff that he'd had before in the American League as far as velocity. That was kind of down. Control wasn't very good. Threw a ton of pitches to everybody that came up there. It was like he was at 100 pitches after 5 innings, almost every game. So I think he's kind of a little bit of a work in progress to see how, he's going to come along and, and can he, adjust to the National League? I don't see any reason why he can't. Physically, I don't think there's anything wrong. He didn't forget how to pitch. Maybe just coming over, he was trying to be too good or something, I don't know. But I expect him to be back up there along with Williams, to be a good, like, number 2 type guy in the rotation. I think he's going to be like a 3.5 ERA, pitch 180, 200 innings. I think he's going to do a very good job. Who's the next guy we're talking about here? We've talked about Trevor. No, Liriano, no.
John Musgrove.
Musgrove, but Joe, yeah, he's my favorite pitcher. Joe, I think he has to prove that he's going to be healthy and be able to make all his starts. That was the problem last year with him. When he was out there, he was pretty good, but there was some situations where he just couldn't get on the field. He got hurt in spring training, didn't pitch, I think, until May or something. But I love watching Joe. I just love the way he pitches out there. He goes right at the hitters. He's not afraid of anybody. He's a big guy. He's like 6'5" or something, really put together. Even though the rules are you can't break up double plays anymore, and he's a pitcher who those guys aren't supposed to break. He's still gonna go after the guys on the bases. He plays the game like it was 20 years ago, and I really like that. I love that about him. Can he hold up to making a start every 5th day for 6 months? That's going to be a little bit of a challenge. We'll see how that goes. But I love it when it's the day that he's out there pitching, because I just know it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be fun watching him pitch. And he also likes to play the game of baseball. I like to watch him field and cover first and all that kind of stuff. It's like having another actual fielder out on the diamond. 5th guy, Jordan Lyles, I guess, is going to be the guy.
Does Liriano even have a chance?
A starting rotation? No chance whatsoever.
Okay.
0. They got him as a left-handed reliever. If that 5 spot, there's this thing that I've heard it over the years, and now it's popular again, especially since they've come up with a catchy name for it. Is we used to call them bullpen games. Now they're called openers, where you'll have somebody pitch the first inning, and then somebody will come in, pitch like the second and third, and then somebody else from the bullpen will finish off the game. There's been talk this year that if they don't have anybody that goes out and grabs that 5th spot, that maybe that would be a bullpen game. Every 5th day, we'll just have it. Liriano could be a good guy to pitch the first inning. From what I see, looking at his stats, first time through the lineup, he still does a pretty good job. So I could see the argument of having him go out there and pitch first, second inning, and then get him the heck out of there. He also still wipes out left-hand hitters. I think if we're a good team and we have a good pitching staff, I think that's his role, is coming in and getting Joey Votto out or something like that in a real crucial situation. I think that's what he's going to be best at. And he's not on the 40-man roster. In fact, he's not even on my list up here. So that's another thing. It's real low risk. If he doesn't do well in spring training and they think, well, you know what, I don't think he's got anything left, they can just let him go. It's just no big deal. But we got to go back here.
You mentioned earlier they get rid of 2 hitting coaches. That's the human aspect. Do they analyze the batters and the pitchers' video and slow pitch, and how do they do it?
They analyze unbelievably. I mean, everything is analyzed. Every pitch that gets thrown all year long to anybody is logged, and I mean, they know what your batting average was, or they know what your exit velocity was on fastballs with spin rates of such and such. It's amazing. It's too much information. It gets a little, and some of these guys that like to experiment, I think they need to have information held from them, because they start changing things when they really don't have to. But the analytics has taken over the game. There's a room now, even on the road, where you walk into 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's 4 people on their laptops back there. All they are is analysts that go travel with the team, that put out reams and reams of this information about, I don't even know about what. And some of the players I talk to them, they're like, oh yeah, we like this, we like that. Other guys, like the center fielder we were talking about, he's like, I don't really pay much attention to that, because that really doesn't tell me what he's going to do with me in certain situations. He goes, I know from experience what he's going to do to me in certain situations, and that's what I'm going to go off of. And I understand that, and I kind of agree with that an awful lot. I know that the analytics tries to account for those scenarios, but there are situations where, from personal experience, you could look at he does this 27% of the time, or this is what he likes to do here, this is what he likes to do there. There's a certain guy will be up there on a certain night when I'm doing something that, I have a pitch that I think is really, really working. And for the first time in my life, the game's on the line, I'm throwing this pitch that I've never thrown against him ever. In this scenario, I'm throwing it because I think this is what will get him out that night. And then if it works, then he's walking back to the dugout saying, wait a minute, they just told me that 7 out of 10 times this is what he's going to do, and he didn't do it. See, that's where the analytics really kind of, I think, get overbearing. From just a general scouting report, I think that at times can be a little bit better. But the analytics is crazy. Like Polanco stepping back off the plate. That's something that has been tried with hitters for 100 years. That guys have a tendency to get too close, they get too pull happy, they tie themselves up, get them off the plate. When you're off the plate, that gives you more time to commit to the pitch. You can look at it a little longer. You don't have to swing as early now to be able to hit it, because you're a little bit further away from it. There's a lot of good things that can happen when you get off the plate. Analytics, now, maybe somebody in the analytics department came up with some numbers saying, oh, look at this right here. He should back off the plate. I don't know if that's what happened or not, but I know just from watching the game, especially from a pitcher standpoint, he should probably get off the plate a little bit. It's not, there's nothing new in baseball, even analytics. A lot of times analytics is just putting a new number or a new name on something that everybody has known forever. But, somebody from our analytics department is going to come up here and have a completely different viewpoint of it than I just gave.
Bob,
Yes.
would you comment about our catching position, Cavalli and his backup?
Diaz, they're locked in for another year. They were the two of those guys. I would say the split last year was probably 2/3, 1/3, and offensively, those guys together was the best numbers out of the catching position, I think, in the National League. So that was actually a very strength of our club last year. One of the bright spots on offense was the catching position. So that shouldn't change at all this year. Now, Cervelli had a very good year with the bat. Can he back that up with another good year? Same thing for Diaz. I don't know. They hit the ball so well last year that it's going to be a tough one to duplicate. But they're going to be given that opportunity. There's nobody else out there right now.
Bob, would you comment about your career? You were a pretty great pitcher yourself.
No, I was not. I was a very mediocre pitcher. I had an ERA of about 4. That's 4.03, I think, to be exact. I hung around for 14 years. I was a middle of the road type guy. I would be kind of like maybe that's why I like Joe Musgrove a lot, because I think he's going to be one of those guys that wins 12 games every year. Decent middle of the rotation type pitcher. Goes out there and guys you have to win championships, but maybe aren't stars. I think that's kind of like what I like to think of myself as, just one of the guys that really helped out, but certainly wasn't one of the stars of the team. I wasn't John Smiley or Doug Drabek or anything like that. But I held my own most of the time.
Okay.
Bob, I'd be interested in your comments about McCutcheon. Yankees, Giants, Phillies. Has he peaked? Is he still?
Oh, he peaked with us when he won MVPs. Yeah, he's definitely on the down. I mean, you sign with the Giants. Well, you signed with us the last 2 years he played with us. He was going downhill when you look at what he was before. And then he continued that downhill slide with the Giants. I mean, his offensive numbers with the Giants were very, very poor compared to what he had done in the past. So it just kept going on. Now, when he got to the Yankees, he really was able to pick it up. He started. I don't know how much of it was at the ballpark. Yankee Stadium is a bandbox now. I don't know how much. excuse me. That helped him. How much did it help him having better hitters around him? As a pitcher, you got to pick and choose who you're going to really throw strikes to and who you're not. So in that Yankee lineup, sometimes you're like, well, and especially if you looked at, McCutcheon now, you're like, maybe I'll go after McCutcheon and, not so much some of these other guys. But he really did have a strong finish to his season when he was picked up for the stretch run by the Yankees. I don't recall. I don't think he did much in the postseason for him. I don't believe. But anyway, I think what he did with the Yankees got him this contract with the Phillies, and I think he can have a resurgent season. I think he can actually get back, not to where he was as not an MVP type player, but get back to where he's a pretty good threat in that lineup because of the ballpark. That ballpark is one of the best hitters ballpark in the National League. It's kind of like Yankee Stadium. I mean, especially if you got some power, ball flies out of there. So I think he's going to hit 25 or more home runs this year in Philadelphia. Now I don't know batting average. I don't know how high that'll be. But if I had to throw a number out there, I'd say he's probably going to hit somewhere around 260. But I think he's going to be a power threat again, playing in that ballpark. And so I think it was a good move by the Phillies. I really do. They paid a lot for him, but I think they did a good job. Yes.
Yeah. I just to change the subject a little bit.
Sure.
About all the rule changes they're talking about now, speeding up the game, the pitcher taking so long to take a pitch, and the designated hitter, of course, every year. Do you think we'll ever get that? They seem to be serious.
Oh yeah, it'll come. They're going to they constantly. I mean, look at baseball goes along like this for 100 years. Oh, here's a rule change. Maybe one more rule change, and now here's the last 10 years. Like that. They're making rule changes, it seems like every year to try and do this and that. They won't lay out. I wish they'd have a rule rollback. Say, okay, these were the rules in 1965. This is how we're going to play this year. You can break up a double play again. You can bowl over a catcher at home plate again. You can do a lot of that. You can go out and argue with an umpire again. The manager can go out and we can have that. We don't have to stop the game for 5 minutes while the guys go over there and put headsets on, and sometimes we don't even know what the hell they're asking about. So yeah, I would like the game to go back to where it was in my youth, when I really learned to love the game of baseball, because now it's not like that anymore. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to go back. It's still going to go forward. There's going to be tons of rule changes. The designated hitter will be used as a bargaining chip. What's going to happen is you're going to get fewer regular players on the 25-man roster and more pitchers, because when you have a designated hitter, you don't ever make any changes during the game other than taking pitchers in and out. So you'll have these huge bullpens and not too many changes during the game. It'll be, as you see in the American League now, they write down the lineups and they play. And then when you get a pitcher out there that can't get anybody out, they bring in somebody else, or you start looking at, like, well, I want this guy is scheduled to pitch the 7th inning, this guy the 8th, this guy's the 9th. That's kind of what baseball's turning into. It's not going to go back. Sorry to say. It's just the way it is. They're changing it, and I hate it, but I got to live with it.
Bob, we're a bunch of old guys here, but I think we all remember that magical season of 1960. Vern Law and Elroy Face got all the ink, but the guy that was the bellwether of that staff just passed away, Bob Friend. He pitched all those innings, and he'd get the team into the 8th or 9th inning, either tied or a run ahead. Elroy would come in, give up a run, the Pirates would win it in the bottom of the 9th, and Elroy got 18 wins that year. Could you talk a little bit about Bob Friend and what he meant to the Pirates?
Well, obviously I never got to see him play, but I've spent a ton of time around him, talking to him. When they had, a few years ago, they had the 1960 World Series reunion team down at Fantasy Camp. I was invited to come down and be a part of that, even though I think they just had to have a young guy that could still throw a ball a little bit. So I got to be invited. So I got to sit there in the small locker room where, all the coaches or the camp guys get to be. And so I was sitting there listening to all the banter back and forth, all those 60 guys. It was like they were still playing, and they're like talking about plays and stuff that happened. See, what year was this? I can't remember what exactly year it was. It happened probably 50 years ago. And they're like talking like it happened yesterday. And you remember when you did this? Remember when it was hysterical listening to these guys. And it was a lot like what it is when I get together with guys that I played. It's the same thing. And it was really fun and an eye-opener to me to see, wow, the people part of baseball hasn't changed. The players back then are exactly like the players like when I played. I assume that things are still like that, but amongst the players nowadays. But your original question about Bob Friend, this is in the scenarios where I was able to really spend some time with him and watch him interact with the other guys, and like hear him and Vern Law go at each other, and it was just, it's all good natured, ribbing about different things. Bob Friend was one of those good people type teammates from what I can see. I don't know what he was when he was young, but I don't think he changed when he got older. He was a very, very good person, very nice man. You look at what he did in baseball was way beyond what I ever did. I was a mediocre type guy. He was a star player. But when he and I would sit down and just talk or sit and have a cup of coffee on a bench down there in Bradenton and watch the guys playing out on the field, he would treat me like I was the star player, and he was a nobody. Where this guy was basically Mr. Pirate when it comes to pitchers. that was the way he was. Tremendous, and he was very, very strong right to the end. I saw him at a dinner, probably the second week of January. Talked to him just for a moment, went by, said hi to him. He was sitting at a different table than I was, and he was just always very gracious and entertaining to the people at the table he was sitting at. Everything was fantastic. And I saw Joe Block night before last, and Joe had actually had lunch with him. Because Joe, you guys know Joe Block is our new announcer. He's trying to get a feel for the history of the Pirates. And so he had asked Bob Friend if he could have lunch with him one day. So he and Bob Friend had lunch just a week ago. And he told me, he says, we just sit there and talked about the old days and stuff. And he goes, I was shocked when 2 days later I saw that he passed away. So I mean, he was right up until the end. I mean, he was a very gracious man and, very strong. And we're sorry to see him go.
Bob, can you comment about the division? It seems like a lot of the teams improved themselves. Can you give us sort of a thumbnail rundown on our division rivals?
Yeah, everybody is going to be tough. I mean, it was the toughest division in baseball last year. 5 teams, 4 of them finish above 500. I mean, nowadays that's unheard of in a division. It's ridiculous. So it's not going to be any easier this year. For me, I think the toughest team, I think, will be the Cardinals. I think they're going to kind of push forward. I think them getting Goldschmidt really is going to make a huge difference in their clubhouse and their offense, everything. They have some good young starting pitching. I think they're going to be very tough. Cubs will be about like they were last year. I think their starting pitching is getting to the point to where it might be a little suspect. They're getting a little long, a couple guys a little long in the tooth, but they still are going to have a really, really good team. Milwaukee probably can be argued that they played over their heads last year. Good offensive team, should not have won the division, should not have won 96 games because they had no pitching. But they overcame that somehow. I don't know how they did it. That was amazing. They'll probably come down a little bit from their lofty perch, but they're still above 500 team for sure. And the team that's made the most moves, and not necessarily free agent signings, but in trades, is Cincinnati. You could look at all 5 teams and make a case that, hey, they're going to finish above 500 this year. They're going to, well, I don't think we all can, but it's going to be really a dogfight in this division. And if you slip back a little bit, you have some problems, you could get buried early. So you're going to have to come out of spring training playing well, because everybody is going to be very good.
Can you talk about the Pirates' use of a sports psychologist?
No. Team's been using sports psychologists. They brought in a psychologist to talk to Blass. I mean, that's how these psychologists have been in the game forever. What are the guys that do the gold watch and put you to sleep? Hypnotists, yeah. They used to bring hypnotists in a lot. That was really big for a while. Steve said after the psychologist, they brought in a hypnotist for him. The Braves brought a hypnotist in for me, 2 hypnotists, 2 different hypnotists. What's that?
Did you put them to sleep? Did you put them to sleep?
That's a good one. Hey? You're welcome. To this day, if anyone says Jack Robinson, I'm supposed to go straight into a trance. I would lay on my back in this room, and I was having trouble. Anytime a pitcher can't throw strikes, they think, oh, hypnotize him. So I don't know if this is about your story or question or not, but I'll go with it here. I think I've told this story here before, that they had the guy had like a pen light, and it's dark, and he would go like this. I'm laying on my back, across my eyes, and he'd start talking about, I don't know, what was the exact words, like you're getting sleepy, but it was something along those lines, to where he's like saying that you are now going to, and I'm like laying there, and I'm like, no, dude, nothing's happening. But I was too embarrassed not to like have this, because they brought in the specialists to do this. So I got to the point to where I'm supposed to be falling asleep, so then I would just kind of go like this, and then he would well, I'm laying there now, just sitting like there with my eyes closed, pretending I'm in this trance. Now he's going through all of his thing about how good my control is going to be. I remember one thing he used to say was, my control will not be pinhead, it will be pinpoint sharp. Not pin. Your control, you won't be able to just hit a pinhead. You'll be able to hit a pinpoint. That stuck in me. I don't know, now, I couldn't throw it the next day, I couldn't hit that door, but that didn't make any difference. But anyway, after about the 4th or 5th session, I guess he got tired of this. So, in one of the times where I'm quote unquote under, he gives me this post-hypnotic suggestion that in the future, all I'll have to hear is the word Jack Robinson, and I will immediately go into a trance. So now, you guys are laughing, thinking I'm making this up. This is honest to God. This is the stuff that baseball teams come up with, okay? This is the stuff that they come up with. So now, the next time I have this session, he comes walking in, the lights are off and stuff. He's like, oh, you're comfortable, I'm laying there. And he, right in the middle of like a little talk, he says, Jack Robinson. And so I just go, like this. So from then on, all he ever did was Jack Robinson. So it didn't work, and I got sent to the minor leagues. So they had a different guy come in the minor leagues to hypnotize me. He also was a Catholic priest. So he would come in with his collar on and stand over me in this little trailer thing we had down there in Richmond, Virginia, and do the same thing and talk to me about how good my control was going to be. I ended up having a good year at the end. I think he actually worked. I don't know what it was. Maybe he worked.
Exorcism?
But the first guy didn't. But anyway, that's my, and sports psychologists also come in and talk to you and things of that nature. And it's, before it would always be people they bring in from the outside. Now they actually have people on staff, more than one. They have a number of them that are for the major league team, for the go-around in the minor leagues. It's become a very common thing in baseball to have a sports psychologist.
Maybe you needed Susan Sarandon.
A what?
Maybe you needed Susan Sarandon.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of those down there.
So we had touched a little bit on pace of play, and with so much of the focus with the pace of play talks being on the pitching position, what effect does the focus on like pitch count and inning count, how do you think that's affected the pitching position and the pace of the game?
I think one of the reasons the pace of the game is slowed down is the number of pitches that are getting thrown every day. It's become such a hit a home run or strikeout mentality. You used to have a lot of guys throughout a lineup. They say 8 guys in a lineup, no DH, 8 guys in a lineup. 3 of those guys are down at the end of the bat. They're trying to drive the ball to the ballpark. The other guys are trying to hit a line drive somewhere. At least 2 or 3 of them are afraid of the 2-strike count. They want to get up there, hit a line drive somewhere early in the count. Now you don't have that anymore. Now you have guys that are going to take, they're going to take till they get that perfect pitch, they can hit it into the river. And that's what baseball is all about, at the risk of striking out. The strikeout is not a big deal anymore. Nobody cares. Oh, I struck out. Walk back to the dugout. Nobody cares anymore. So you're seeing a lot of full counts all the time. That's what I think really slows the game down. I was accused a lot of being a slow pitcher. But I swear to you, most of the time, I'm waiting on the hitter. You're going to, come on, let's go. Or toward the end of my career, I'm waiting on the catcher because he's looking in the dugout to see if there's somebody on base, to see if we're going to pitch out, pick off, throw, hold for like 6 seconds and step off. Those kind of signs are coming. So a lot of times I'm sitting there looking in, come on. I know people in the stands are saying, is he going to pitch? You know, I'm looking at. But where my slowness would come in was a lot of the times, especially early on, I was afraid of the bat. I was kind of like the pitcher version of always going into a full count. It seemed like I was always 2-2, 3-2 all the time because I was always trying to not let the guy hit the ball because I was afraid, he's going to hit a home run off me. And I ended up learning to pitch more to contact and try to get ground balls and stuff. But when I was slow, that was one of the problems. Was I was always getting my pitch count way up. I couldn't have a 2 or 3 pitch at bat. I wouldn't allow that because, especially if I got ahead, if I get 0-2, you can bet it's going to be at least 2-2 before I throw him another strike. I ended up getting away from that. I think it was that second hypnotist told me you can't do that. But anyway, I think that's as big a part of the problem as anything. And I think they solved the trips to the mound were getting ridiculous. Everybody, the shortstop going, the first baseman, the catcher was going out there on every hitter. They got rid of that, and last year, for the first time in God knows how many years, the time of game, I think the average time of game came down by like 5 or 6 minutes, just by that.
Do you think you're going to reduce the time of the game by using a go-kart?
No, that'll increase it. That's a gimmick. That'll increase the time of game.
With Jordy Mercer and Harrison gone, what do you think is going to happen in the middle infield?
Frazier will definitely be the everyday second baseman. He was the everyday second baseman at the end of last year. You know, so that's a deadlock. We got. I'm not even going to look at my thing here because I looked at it earlier. We got Eric Gonzalez from the Indians, who is 27 years old. He came up through the Indian organization as not a great bat, but a good field reputation. They've had a couple good shortstops in front of him, so he became a utility infielder. Never got a chance to play every day. They picked him up, and they're going to give him a shot at it, see if he can hit. They know he can definitely field good enough. Can he hit good enough? But they only want, they only want Mercer type offense, and they think that he could probably do that. Long term, I think they still want Newman to be the shortstop. Long term, but right now, I think they're going to look toward Gonzalez to be the opening day nod. Newman was kind of disappointing last year. Had troubles defensively and with the stick. Really looked overmatched when he came up. Part of that was physical. He was really small. Lost a lot of weight, from what I understand, during the season. So they're trying to see what was the reason for that, why he's gained all that weight back. He supposedly looks strong again. We'll see when the season starts. But I think Gonzalez will be the shortstop when it goes. If he really can't handle the job, really can't hit, then Newman will get probably another shot at it. That's the way I understand it to be. Things can change.
Thank you, Bob. Let's
Is that it?
Let's bring it to a close. Nice round.